Great start. They've unmuted
And
everybody.
I am Jeremy Williams, and I am County Extension Agent for Ag and Natural Resources in Harlan County, and it's good to see everybody this evening. And I will say that when we had planned, when we planned this segment, we actually had an #1 photographer that was going to join us. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to join us this evening, so you've got me. So basically, what I'm going to do is give some tips. But I will ask a question first. Do I have anybody on here that I would refer to as a professional photographer or an advanced amateur? Because I'm going to turn this over to you all. So I hope that some of you are doing some photography, and I see some chats coming up. I see Aaron says no, and Chiquita says no, says I. All right. So y'all not taking that bait. And that works. That works. And Chad's saying no too. So so we'll just progress through things. And Chiquita says, although I try really hard, the trying's the best part. And I'm having a little issue with advancing here. All right, so why do we take photos? I mean, you can open your mic up and let me know why you take photos. Why do we take photos? I've got some ideas, but why do y'all take photos?
To try to remember stuff because I forget pretty easily.
That's a good one, Aaron. I like that. Try to remember stuff, forget easy. I'm the same way. There's a lot of times that I'll go and take a picture of something just to, it may be a barcode or something like that, or the password on the back of the modem or something like that. So that's definitely a good one. Maybe to market the county, to capture memorable moments, to be creative. I like those. And I see somebody else coming in here. Proof of having done something. There you go. So, photo stop time. And basically we have, I stopped a wreck from happening at Bristol Motor Speedway several years ago. In the lower right-hand corner is an old photo that I took at Shad's house. Shad, that's actually in the flower bed there next to your house between you and your neighbor on the right-hand side. I took several photos that day and a honeybee and suspension. So photo stop time. They allow you to create those memories. Like we mentioned, brings back memories. Now, one of the things there's two things that I can remember about this photo. That's my dad on the left, on the International with a hay rake, and his brother on the right, baling hay. This was the last time that they baled hay together. And then also, I remember this was a cicada year. And I can remember the cicadas that day were deafening. And it's almost by looking at the pictures that I can still see them or still hear them today. So they bring back memories. They even tell stories. Yeah, you've got a sign there that says no swimming. It's at Camp Blanton here in Harlan County. And it also, it shows that the lake is frozen. So basically, I'm not going to give you any big tips. I'm just trying to help you out and trying to maybe help you think along the way, because that's how I gather some stuff. It just allows me to see things and think along the way. So tell stories as well. So traveling with your camera. Do you all travel with a camera? Now I'm not talking about a phone, but do y'all travel with a camera? I know I used to travel with a camera every day. The last thing I did is I walked out of the house, I grabbed my camera bag. Anybody travel with a camera? All right, Sarah says yes, with a capital Y-E-S. All right, yeah, I used to do that quite often, travel with a camera. So traveling with a camera, here's some shots that I got when I had my camera, and it brings back stories and memories as well. There's a black bear. Story, the story there behind that literally is that was taken at Kingdom Come State Park. And matter of fact, I can remember the day it happened. It actually happened on September the 1st, 2005, and I did not look that up earlier today. I can remember that. It's a beautiful day in September, so it told a story. So I had my camera that day and was able to capture that picture. There's another picture. I think that was the same year, opening day of deer season. That's at Merle and Shad. That's at Eddie Saltus Overlook. Shad, that's the tree that was removed a few years back when that sign was put in there because that tree was in the way. There's a frog because I had my camera. That was not a cell phone camera either. I actually had my camera that day. Fire pink, catch fly. There's Mitch and an eagle because I had my camera. Train. That's at Elkhorn City. That's the Pull Point Trestle. That's a story too. If you're a rail fan, can anybody? That's Elkhorn City would be back to the left or behind me. Can anybody tell me which direction that train is traveling by looking at that? Anybody know? Hey, y'all get homework in here.
I'm going east.
Going east? Well, which direction is it traveling? Is it traveling towards me or away from me? And I'll give you a clue here in a minute. If you'll notice the coal loads, it's loaded with coal, and the coal leaves Elkhorn City going south. So those are actually a pusher set of engines. So you get a free history lesson there as well. So, or geography. So those are just 6 photos that I captured along the way because I had my camera. Okay, traveling with your camera. I left my camera at the house, but I got this one. That's what I got. I missed on several photos because I left my camera at the house. And I've done that. Fortunately, cameras have gotten a little bit better on cell phones, but I have left my camera at the house and missed on a pile of photos, and I know you all have too. So, know your camera. Have you read the owner's manual? Make sure you read that owner's manual. And a lot of times you'll find a manual specifically for a camera that actually has a little bit more information. Also, how many megapixels is the camera capable of producing? Does it have optical zoom, digital zoom, or both? This is for point and shoot cameras. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen right quick. Can y'all see me pretty good? Can y'all see me now that I've stopped sharing my screen?
Yep.
All right. This here is just a point and shoot camera. I like this. It's literally smaller than my cell phone, as you can tell. Smaller than my cell phone. And I like that because I can put that in a backpack, or I can put that in my turkey vest, or put it in my pocket. And this is great to have. Now, one of the things is about this, it has what's called optical zoom and digital zoom. Optical zoom is, it goes out so far and you get your true photo. Digital zoom, it literally cranks things in and you're going to start to get fuzzy because it's digitizing it on the end. So the more optical, if you're using these right here, the more optical zoom you have, the better off you are. Now, a lot of times you'll see cameras for a really good deal, like 50 or 60 bucks, and it'll have an optical zoom of like 10 and have a digital zoom of like 25 or 20. It's cheap because digital zoom is cheap. So you want something with a lot of optical zoom and less digital zoom. And this one here actually has, I don't remember. It doesn't say on it for some reason. I thought it said it on it here, but I know it has more optical zoom than it has digital zoom just for that. So let me go back to sharing my screen again. And I'm probably going to come back and forth, share my screen if that's all right with you all. So knowing the camera, knowing what your camera is capable of doing. And I'll give an example. I had bought a brand new camera several years ago, came up on some bears. It was late in the evening. The daylight out there was much darker than what it is right now. It was the sun was setting. And my settings on my camera were off because it was brand new. I hadn't had time to figure it out. And I missed really good shots. I took 72 shots of some bears, and I only got one that was worth anything. So know your camera. So basically, I set the next day in a low light situation, and I set the camera up to, if I ever had that situation come up again, I would be ready for it. So knowing that camera. All right, camera bag. First of all, do you have one? Why should I have one? What's in it? Can I quickly access those items if I need to? So I'm going to stop sharing again right quick. So I have a camera bag. Mine is in backpack form, and it has everything that I need in it. It's got my camera. I carry my DSLR in it. And also it has a side pouch that, guess what? This little guy, he rides along too. But with the DSLR, I've got my extra lenses. I've got every lens in case I need to switch out in the middle of a shot, or I catch something that I need more telephoto, or something that a wide angle, or so I switch that out. Sunny day, I've got lens hoods, and I have literally run back to the truck before to grab lens hoods. But there's one thing, you've got several items in there. You may have a lens duster, something like that, some lens cloth. Like I said, the lens hoods. Right here's the number one thing. You better have extra batteries. And I won't say I learned the hard way, but got on a photography expedition one time of shooting some elk. And I got away from the truck too far, and the battery went dead on the camera. And I had to run back to the truck. Fortunately, had a extra rechargeable battery ready to go, popped it out, popped this one in the camera, and continued shooting the elk, and got some really good photos of that elk along the way. So even if you don't have your pack with you, if you leave your pack in the car, at least grab an extra battery and shove it in your pocket. I tend to do that quite often. And if you're using a flash, if you're using an external flash, grab some extra batteries to go with that and shove those in your pocket as well. Because at some point in time, you're going to be forced to have to use those. So let's go back to sharing the screen again. So I presume you've got a camera bag. You've got something you put your camera in. I've got a small pouch. You might be able to see that. I've got a small pouch that the small one goes in, that the point and shoot goes in. Why should you have one? You need to have all your camera junk, so to speak, all your camera stuff in one spot, and it stays there all the time. That way, if you're looking for something, that it's there. I mentioned about what's in it, things that are in there, those extra lenses if you have a DSLR, extra batteries, whether it be, the AA or AAA or a rechargeable battery. And you need to have quick access. I had a camera bag that was great. It held everything, including the kitchen sink, and it was huge. It was great. It was comfortable to carry. But the problem is the design on it was horrible. And I got in a situation one time that I pulled up at a location, and I can't remember what I was trying to photograph, but I was trying to get in that bag, and I could not get into that bag quick enough. And I missed the shot. So can I quickly access those items if I need to? So that comes down to the design of the bag. I like a backpack. type bag, and basically the backpack type bags is all your lenses. If you're using a DSLR, all your lenses, your camera, everything is on the bottom of the bag that I've got, and then on the top are a lot of the accessories on the top. So, all right, taking those precious photos, holding the camera and the posture, and this one's a tough one to do here. And I hope you can see me again. This was a tough one to do with a virtual deal. But what you want to do is hold the camera. If you're using a DSLR or whether you're using the point and shoot, hold it with two hands. Put two hands on it. And if you can brace yourself somehow as you shoot with the camera, if you can brace yourself and hold steady, that's the main thing. So you need a good posture, however that works. I will add too is the way you hold your camera. I have seen photographers, they will literally get their hands in the way of things. If you'll notice, I'm right-handed, so this is easy. And if you'll notice, I keep a strap on mine, and the way the strap comes across my thumb, that if I accidentally drop that, I can catch it before it hits the ground. So I keep my thumb under the strap. That's just something that I do, that I've always done. I hold it with my left hand, and if I'm turning up to do a vertical shot, my left hand is holding it. I've seen people do it this way, and literally, if you'll notice, my hand can be in the way of the lens. And I've seen people get their hands in the way of a lens here, and they'll cut off the bottom of a shot because their finger's in the way. And so what you want to do is hold the camera like this with your right hand on the top, on the shutter, and on your left hand kind of cradling. And what I do is I bring my elbow into my chest, and that helps me hold the camera when I pull it up. I just I'm using double. And what I do is I tend to pull, if I'm shooting a DSLR, I tend to pull my pinky finger, my right pinky finger underneath it, and that helps stabilize it as well. But the big thing is putting my thumb through there. And basically it's the same thing. If you are, shooting a point and shoot, just make sure you're getting a good firm grip on it, that you're not dropping it. These things are handy. They've got the lanyards, and you can put that through your wrist, just to make sure you're not going to drop that. I'm more worried about dropping my DSLR than I am the point and shoot. So I typically don't use the lanyard. But that's just a couple of pointers there that I tend to use. I'll go back to the PowerPoint presentation. So that's a little bit on how to hold the camera and the posture, just to make, hold the camera. Now I typically, unless I'm just in a crazy predicament, if I can, I put my feet usually about shoulder width, and, to get a good solid stance with the camera. That way I'm not too shaky with it. And the good thing is, on some of this shake stuff, there is some, some anti-shake devices on some of the new lenses, depending on what brand of camera. Sometimes if you're shooting DSLR, the lens has the anti-vibrate, and on one brand, and then on another brand, you may have actually the camera body that is anti-vibrate. Right. So how you hold that camera makes a difference. Now, matter of fact, this is one of those photos that Shad was with me on this one here. That was down at Land Between the Lakes several years ago. And this was shot with a point and shoot camera. And if you'll notice, I am shooting horizontally. So how you hold the camera makes a difference. It's a horizontal shot. I automatically turned it up to a vertical. It grabs the sun, and it grabs more of a peach tone to it, and it darkens everything a little bit. So you can see there, you can see the green of the trees and the grass and that sort of thing. And the sun is just above that horizon. If you can see my cursor, it would be just above the horizon there of the photo. But then I grab the sun there, and you don't see necessarily see the green. Everything is dark. And I wish you all could actually see the photo and it printed out. It has a deep peach color to it. It's totally different between the two, which is really neat. So how you hold that camera makes a difference. Now, one of the things I've ditched the date stamp in here. Years ago, everything had a date stamp on it. I can remember some of the newer 35mm cameras. They started putting a date stamp on them. And if you know what I'm talking about, it's the right here in the lower right-hand corner. It's that date stamp or a time stamp. And so that one actually had a date stamp. And what I did on this one here is for the photo, I took the date stamp out. You can see down here on the right-hand corner, it's gone. So I just manipulated the photo and took it out. There was a lady several years ago. She was showing me and a friend of mine some photos she had taken. And she said, and they're beautiful. I mean, I'm talking great photos, potential award-winning photos, publishable photos, but every one of them had a date and a timestamp on them. They all had a date timestamp on them. And I said, ma'am, I said, you know, you've got some great photos. You've got a great eye here. But the problem is the date stamp, the timestamp on there. You need to ditch that. Now, I've started seeing that come back now, even on a digital level. It's like you can add those things in there now. And she said, well, I want to know when I've taken the photo. And I know we've talked about that earlier. You want to know that you've actually done something and be able to prove it. And she said, I want to know when I took that photo and the time I took that photo. And so I started to explain it to them. Now, this is an old one here. We don't need date stamps because we have metadata. As a matter of fact, every camera, I don't know if you all have done that before, but every camera, digital camera, you can go back and you can go into the properties of that. And as long as you've got the time correct on it and the date correct on it, it actually shows. So if you'll see down here at the bottom, it shows that a picture was taken on June the 23rd, 2007 at 11:36 a.m. It shows what the camera was, that it was a Nikon D70S. It talks about the DPIs. It talks about the pixels, everything. It talks the f-stop, the exposure time, everything is there. As a matter of fact, they have been using for the last several years metadata in copyright litigation. Because the thing is, there's a lot of photos that show up in places that people have taken, but they were used by somebody else. And so when it went to the court of law, the person who had the photo had one thing, but the person who took the photo actually had the metadata, which was what was taken originally with the photo, because that will change. For instance, if you'll notice up there, it says DSC underscore 1603. That's the actual photograph number. And so when you actually manipulate that photo and you change it to Jeremy's dog, it will actually change some of the metadata on there. So we have no need for those date stamps. And then recently on a social media platform, I actually saw a date stamp come up in the bottom of a photo. So evidently people are starting to use those again. So megapixels. That was a big thing. It's been several years ago. We don't see as much megapixel growth as we once did. It was like first digital camera I had megapixels. It was 0.53. That's just over a half a megapixel. Basically, if I took a picture to print that out and it looked great, I could put it had to be no bigger than a postage stamp. It was one of those things. So megapixels is 1 million pixels, which is per inch. In any of the small discrete elements that together constitute an image as on a television or computer screen. And that's according to Webster's dictionary. So there's your megapixel. I don't get too tore up on megapixels. I'm sitting here with two cameras, one that has, I think, 16 megapixels, and the other one, the point and shoot, I think it's about 8. And unless I'm putting something up on a billboard, that's all I need. And I noticed they've gone to 24, 36. I mean, I remember several years ago that megapixels actually just kept skyrocketing, and the price went with them. And, you know, you went from a 4 megapixel and somebody said, I got an 8, but it's going to cost me $300 more. And it just, you know, one of those things is megapixels kept going up, the dollars went up, but that's kind of flattened off a little bit. So I don't really get too tore up over megapixels, but because I have some great photos that I've taken with a small megapixel camera, and I've have great photos that I've taken with a large megapixel camera. Now, there is some clarity. You see some clarity with the better megapixels. So especially when you're shooting still photography. So I take that back. My first digital camera was a 0.35. There is an owl that I took. You can see there. That's an old photo in 2002. And that, if you'll see the graininess even in there on this digital, it printed out, it's even grainier. It would look wonderful on a postage stamp with the words forever underneath it. So when you print it out at a 4:6, it was actually absolutely, it was just grainy. You can see the lighting on it was terrible, but that was during the days of some of the newer digital cameras. Matter of fact, that one there, the media for it was a 3.5-inch floppy disk. And somewhere I have a pile of 3.5-inch floppy disks with some really cool photos on it, but they're not necessarily worth anything at 0.35 megapixels. But we were capturing memories. We were capturing some cool stuff, and you really couldn't get anything over about a 4:6 on photo. Now, you know, here's one whole lot better photo. That's with a 5.1 megapixel. You can see 2 years later, you know, they're now developing a little bit better photos. And a 5 megapixel camera is a good one. That's a good camera. I've shot a lot of photos with 5.1, 6, that sort of thing, and you can start to see the clarities. That photo right there is beautiful, printed out on an 8x10. Matter of fact, I've done that before, and it's a great photo on an 8x10. There's a 6.0 of squirrel, and so it's the lighting was a little bit bad on that, but you've got some clarity in there, and so I'm okay with these 5 megapixels. I'm 6, 8, 12, that sort of thing. And then there's a 12 megapixel, and you're starting to see a little bit better there. The snow was flying that day, and you can see some detail in that coal hopper there. So it gets a little bit better. I want to mention framing the object. Does anybody on here shoot specifically to hang pictures, map pictures, and hang them on the wall? You can open the mic up or what have you.
Only if they're good enough.
Only if they're good enough. Only if they're good enough. And we'll get into that in a minute, Shad. Only if they're good enough. So if you're shooting for printing or anything, here's what I'm going to say. If you're framing that object, give it some room. Got somebody that's put something in the chat. No, but would like to. Okay. Any photo you take can be printed. That's no problem at all. But you want to frame that object. Every time I take a picture, I'm taking a picture to where I'm going to print that picture at an 8x10 with the possibility of something bigger or something smaller. So you want to frame that object and you want to give it some room. Now, I don't have the ability to bring a mat out here and show you that sort of thing, unfortunately, but I'm going to explain it the best I can. So you want to give that some room. If you'll notice here, these birds here, if you'll look, if you'll see, there's plenty of room on the top and the bottom and the left and the right. I've centered it up pretty much, the object. You're sending an object up, and I didn't zoom in tight on that, you know. So I gave it plenty of room on the sides, the top and the bottom. Now here is one of my favorite photos. I love this photo. But you see on the left-hand side, I cut the end of the tongue off of this hay rake. And at the top, it lacks about 1/4 of an inch from being cut off at the top. So this photo here, if I printed it out on an 8x10, it would mat up perfectly, because what's going to happen is when you print that off at an 8x10, it's going to, even an 8.5 by 11, using a whole sheet, it's going to automatically cut some of that photo off at the top, the bottom, and both sides. That's just the nature of it. Look at this photo here. It's going to cut it off, and if you can see my cursor here, it literally cuts the photo off right at the top of that hay rake wheel. Now, a mat, an 8x10 mat, is not a true 8x10 mat. It's just a little bit smaller than an 8x10. And so when I mat that, it's going to cut it off even more on the sides. And so what happens is I literally, the way I framed that and the way I didn't give it enough room, I hurt the photo. I hurt the photo when it come down to matting it and framing it. And that's what you want to do. You want to frame that object. And when I hand, you know, if I'm doing a family photo and I hand the camera to my dad and say, here, give it plenty of room, you know, and that means give it plenty of room on the bottom, the top, and both sides, and center the object. Whereas I messed up on that photo, a great photo that I felt, and other than some lighting issues, but I can work on that. I can manipulate that. But the problem is because of the framing, I hurt that. Also, I want to throw this out here too. When framing the object, what's the subject? And everybody has a story that you're telling with a photo. And everybody, if you handed it to 3 people, that photo, or showed 3 people that photo without saying anything, they would have a different opinion of it. So framing the object, what's the subject? What story do you want to tell if you're showing somebody a photo or you're putting it in a contest or something like that? So you make them guess what the subject is maybe. Now, you've got Ben here, and he's standing there in some ferns. You've also got the light coming in behind him. You know, me as the photographer, what was I trying to relay here? And so you got to make them guess. The first thing that you may see that stands out may be the light, or it may be Ben, or it may be the forest floor or that tree with that piece of engineering ribbon tied to it. So make them guess what that subject is. Make them, you know, then sometimes you may want that subject to be specific, but that's kind of a good idea there. Here's this optical versus digital that I was talking about earlier. There's the optical. This was an older camera. I took that at Bristol Motor Speedway. And if you'll notice, it's zoomed in as far as optical will go. And great photo. I mean, you could look at anything there and come up with, hey, Jeremy's trying to come up with something there. What's Jeremy trying to come up with? And so I centered the photo. I zoomed it into as far as optical would go, and I got that photo. Digital, here's what digital does. If you'll notice those people standing there on the back of that, on the top of that holler, I didn't zoom in. And you've got people standing on top of the holler. Familiar with NASCAR, there's Richard Petty. There's his cousin, Dale Inman. But what I did is I cranked that up into a digital type photo. And what happened is I didn't blow this up in a program. I literally went into digital zoom with my camera, this point and shoot camera. But if you'll notice the light, you got a lot of glare. You got some haziness to it because what it was doing, it was just cranking it up. It was blowing it up itself. And I know y'all done that with cell phone cameras. You know, you can zoom in on, zoom in on it. If, pinch and drag, that sort of thing. And but that's what I'm meaning by the optical and the digital zoom. So a camera that has the more optical zoom than digital is going to cost you more money, but it's also going to give you a better quality. That's if you're dealing with a point and shoot camera. DSLRs do not have digital zoom. So flash, field flash, or no flash, and I throw this in here. I don't use a lot of flash. That's just me. I don't use a lot of flash. And so when to use the flash, when not to use the flash. No flash or flash. Here's JD. He's on stage. All I've got is there's no flash. I've got the flash turned off. If you'll notice, all he's got there is the lights, the stage lights. If you'll notice, there's some movement in his left arm, and so there's some glare there. There's some fuzziness there. And whatever I do, I'm not going to be able to take that out. If you look at around in, the area around his hair, his glasses are a little bit fuzzy, that sort of thing. There's a lot of glare there. But I can add some field flash to it. And I can that helps me. Look at his left arm now. That helps a little bit. Look at the handkerchief. Look at the mic stand. And so that helps a little bit there. I'm able to, work that a little bit better. So the field flash helped me there. If you'll notice the field flash, no field flash on the left. And all I'm doing is I'm just pointing it into that pine cone and taking the picture. And then I decided, hey, I'll add some field flash there. And so I add some flash, and this is just the internal flash of the camera, the flash that's on the camera. I think this was a point shoot. May have been a DSLR, but I think this was a point shoot. So I turn the flash on, and so it brings that pine cone out. It still gives me what I want, but it brings that out. So there's one. Then on fireworks, when you're shooting things at night and you're wanting to get a shot of something, don't use flash. Fireworks is one of those, because had I used flash on this fireworks, I would have gotten just a bright blob of probably blue or purple or yellow. It's just, it's just a bright blob, probably a lot of smoke in there. But if you'll notice, I turned the flash off. I took a good stable balance. I was shooting free-handed, wasn't shooting with a tripod. And because I had the flash turned off, that's what I got. Also, where's the source of the light? You got to think, you're dealing with the sunshine outside. I shoot a lot outside. I shoot it outside more than I shoot inside. I prefer it outside. So you got a lot of sunshine, evening or morning. Evenings tend to be softer than mornings. Do you need some artificial lighting? Like I said, do you need a flash? Do you need an external flash? I've seen people use flashlights, late in the evenings, early in the mornings, and it works. So where's your source of light? Storing your photos. Now, we've taken all these great photos, and we want to do something with them. In latter years, I've gotten worse than what I used to be. I was really good at when I came in from a shoot, whatever it was, if I shot 10 photos, I would take the photos and I would take them and put them on an external hard drive. At that point in time, I would back that external hard drive up, and I kept the hard drives in 2 different spots. That was just, this was before the cloud type stuff. So storing photos, what I typically do is on my storage of photos, I'll put the year, say 2020, I'll put on, if I'm out shooting, say, if I'm out shooting nature photos, I'll put nature on it, or be under the file under 2020. And then I'll dump all my photos in there. And so if I go back in, you know, if I've shot photos in 2004 and I'm looking for something that was nature, I can go to 2004. I can go, what I'll do is I'll go to 2004. It'll be the camera, Nikon 5700. And then I'll go into nature and I'll be able to find it there. That helps me. Flash drives are great. The thumb drives, they're wonderful to use those. The big thing now is putting in the cloud. And you know, most of these cloud servers, they're backed up on 3 or 4 different servers. If one goes down, you still have it. They are pricey. So you're having to pay a price per year or price per month, whether you use it or not, but they are nice because you can access it anywhere. Hard drives are much cheaper now. But I would typically have 2 hard drives, like I said, one to put my photos on, then back it up. And normally I would take that hard drive and leave it somewhere else, like my mom and dad's or something like that. But I think I even have a hard drive still out there. So I'm storing it in 2 different places. Same with flash drives. You know, my storage is in 2 different places. That way I don't lose it. The cool thing is about the cloud, you're paying for a subscription yearly, and you can store that there, and they're literally putting it in 3 or 4 different places for you, and it's going to be there. Now, what you run into on some of the things with the cloud is some of these places, when you put it up there, you're going to lose some of the quality of the photo on some of the places. So make sure that you're not going to lose any quality, that when you upload it to the cloud, that when you download it, you've got the 100% photo that you uploaded. Like you would if you were putting it on a flash drive or a hard drive or whatever. So, for instance, if you're putting a photo on social media, when you upload that thing, and it may be something that's 10 megabytes and it takes forever to upload, and it's a wonderful photo that you're sharing on whatever social media platform, and then you'll go back and you'll look for that photo and think, I believe I'll download that to my phone and print it. It's no longer that 10 megapixel photo. You're losing some quality because what happens is they compress that. So if you're looking at something in the cloud, make sure that that place is not compressing photos for you. So print your photos. I don't print a lot of photos. I've got one camera that I have probably I know I've taken over 11,000 photos on it. And the photos printed off of it is probably more like less than 100, and maybe closer to 50. So that's something that, you know, we don't do a lot of anymore, is print photos. And so we've got a lot of digital that we've got stored back, you know, and personally, I've got thousands. Like I said, I've got one camera that was over 11,000, you know, between 2 or 3 cameras, I've probably got 20,000 photos. And they're all digitized, and very few of them have been printed, whether that's a good thing or not. I guess we'll see. You know, we've got photos that's been around since the 1800s that you can pull up and look at that are family photos or something, and digital photos. I don't know what they're going to look like in the year 2200, so to speak. Probably really don't care, but on something like that. But so I'm going to talk a little bit about manipulating the photo, and there's several programs out there to be able to manipulate the program or the photo. This is an image that came directly from my camera. It was a DSLR. This is another one of those stories. My dad and I chased the Southern 630 from Bulls Gap, Tennessee to Bristol, Virginia a few years ago. I think that was like 76 rail miles, and was able to hit several stops. And this was one of them here at Bluff City. And it was a really cool shot because, matter of fact, it was multiple shots. And this was just the center shot, the better that I felt of all of them. And so I actually started taking several photos. And when the locomotive got to the end of the bridge there on the right, the firemen started shoveling coal, and the black smoke started to roll, and there were about 10 or 12 photographers standing right there in an area on top of each other underneath the bridge. And so if you'll notice, I'm shooting up. If you'll notice, the bridge is kind of laid back at the angle, and it's kind of a flat, funny looking angle. If you'll notice, the piers that are in the river there, they're kind of at a funny angle. They're kind of kicked to the right, and it's just a really funny looking photo. So you got this tree on the upper left-hand corner, which is not bad. It's a nice framing. Tree on the right-hand side, it's framed up very nice. But the lighting was terrible, and so I decided to start manipulating this photo with a program. So I cropped it, and I enhanced it some. And that helped it a little bit. And all I did is cropped it down, and I went from this full frame image to this here by cropping it and enhancing it. And I tilted it a little bit. If you'll notice, see how those piers are, the top of the bridge is kicked away, and the piers are kind of to the photographer. It's all leveled things up a little bit. So it's leveled up a mite. And if you'll notice that black smoke, sky looks a little bit better. It's really overcast that day. And there's a lot of bright in the west. The sun was, this point in time, it was in the afternoon, so the sun's setting in the west. And so I cropped it and enhanced it a little bit. Then I rotated it a little bit more. If you'll notice, I went to the piers, the base of those piers, and I leveled those up a little bit. And basically that's all I did. And I cropped it, and I have printed it out in an 8x10. Matter of fact, out in my barn out back, I have a copy, because it's too big to bring in the house. I have a copy that is 2 foot by 3 foot of this photo, and it printed out excellent. Matter of fact, back here in the RPO, you can see there's a little guy, and he's looking out. And on the photos, you can see the fireman there, or what would be the fireman on the fireman's side there, looking out. But so the photo turned out really good. Now, one of the things that it does is in this area here, where I'm showing my cursor, when I print it out in an 8x10, it cuts that off. And so it leaves a funny looking blob there with the smoke, and then it cuts it off here as well on 8x10. But with that full 24x36, I get that whole photo. So basically all I did is straight out the camera, I cropped it and enhanced it, and I rotated it a little bit more. I see somebody's coming in on chat there. How can you determine how large of a print to make of a picture without it beginning to look grainy or pixelated? Good question. I just felt that I had enough pixels to make it happen, and I wanted to try it. And so one of the things is when I was able to look at it, Aaron, I was able to look that the picture was not grainy, it was sharp. And the last time that I rotated it, I looked at the sharpness on it, and when I enhanced it, I added some sharpness to it, and so it took a lot out. And so as long as I didn't have fuzzy edges on, especially on sharp edges like around the top of this tender or around some of this the light on the locomotive, as long as they were not fuzzy, even on the piers here, as long as it wasn't fuzzy, I felt that I could get it up to a 24x36, or at least try it. And when I printed it, it's a little fuzzy, but I think it had to do a lot with the lighting and how much I had to manipulate it. But on an 8x10, there's no fuzz at all. It's not grainy or anything like that, but there's a little bit of a graininess on that 24x36. But that's the only photo that I have ever printed on a 24x36, and I had the opportunity to do it. I have a friend of mine who has the ability to do it, and I showed it to him, and he said, "Let me print that for you." And I said, "I'll send it to you." But So basically, just looking at the photo and seeing how grainy it is from the get-go, but it prints out great on an 8x10 with no grainy. So after all that, I'm going to tell you, enter a contest. And as we wrap up, this day and time, there's digital contest. I don't know that I've never entered a digital contest. Every contest that I've ever entered has been a printed contest, and you print it off, you take it to them. I've entered some really good contests. Matter of fact, one of the best ones I ever entered, there was one in Kingsport that has taken place for years. Used to take place in the spring, and I think it's now in the fall, or vice versa. But when I took 3 photos to them, entry fee about $10 a photo, and I just wanted to see how my photos stacked up with somebody else. And when I walked in there was photos of all different sizes, all different shapes, you know, the whole works. Good photos, bad photos, really good photos, really, really, really good photos. But one of the things that I did was I wanted to see how my photos matched up. And that's what you're doing with the contest. But that day I felt like I was taking 3 sheep to slaughter because I had no idea what I was doing. But I wanted to see how they matched up with others. And that's one of the things that I've done with my photography is I tell people who all the time, and I'm not a professional photographer by any means, by no means. Advanced amateur, yeah. But what I typically do is I'll look at photos of other people. And especially at a contest, if I'm in a contest or I go to look at photos at a contest, I want to see what the winners look like. First, second, third place. I want to see how they done that photo. That way I can, you know, make my photos look like theirs. Now, I'm not taking the same photos that they're taking, but it may be a photo that they're taking in a place I know I'll never go. But I know a place that has, something that, a bridge that looks just like the bridge they took, or a turkey or whatever. And so it allows me at these contests, the first place winner thinks, hey, I can do that, or hey, I can do better than that. And so enter a contest. That way you're putting your work up against everybody. One of the things too is when you enter a contest, a lot of contests will have an amateur division and a professional division. One of the things I always tell people, enter the professional division. If you want your photos to be against the best, that's where you want them. You want them in the best. You want them against the best categories. Now, maybe the first one or two you want to do amateur or something like that. But I tell everybody, and I have entered photos at contests before. Have somebody to come in to enter pictures and had to talk them into putting them in there against me, knowing that I could get beat by their photo because their photo was that good. But they needed to know, hey, your photo needs to be in the amateur, in the professional division. So enter contest. Glad that. So any questions? Anybody have any questions? I'm going to start sharing right quick. Any questions? Any discussions? If you want to, you can open your mic up or whatever. My thing is unfortunately, I do not take photos, the amount of photos like I used to. And I hate that. I just don't take the time to do it. And that's my fault. When I leave the house every day, I don't take my camera or cameras with me. I guess because I rely on this guy here, that if I come across something, I can take a photo and it's nearly as good. Never put pictures on social media. Aaron, I have, say on my own post. I've had them published on social media before as well. So I've had photos on social media. I've got a Facebook page, and so I put up some from there. One of the things that I try not to do is my best photos. I try not to put them on my Facebook page because there's a good place for them to get stolen, and I've had them to do that before and wind up, in places that I may not want them to wind up. And so it's a deal of, if I'm going to take them to a contest, I don't want them to be tied to my social media page and them already be seen and a judge see them already or something like that. I want to surprise everybody in the house, so to speak, if I'm going to take them to a contest. So I typically, when I take some photos, I'm thinking, hey, at some point in time, whether it be this year or 10 years down the road, I may put these in a contest. But good question. But yeah, I do put them on some social media sites as well. From the office, if you go to some of the office pages, our office page, the Harlan County Extension Facebook page, the advertisements for the Zooms, there's 3 or 4 photos that I've used on there, and those are some that I've taken. And there's no questions. I just hope you get out there and take photos. I don't care what you're using to take them. Several years ago, when photos became popular with camera, with the cell phones, I asked a photographer who was, the way I look at it, a professional photographer, had a lot of photos published. I asked her, I said, do you think that cell phone photos are killing the photos, hurting us, hurting photographers, hurting photos? And she said no. She adamantly told me no. So that made me think a little bit different toward cell phone photos. And a lot of places are literally having contests for cell phone photos anymore. So not only is that $2,000 DSL camera have its place, but they're also, that cell phone has a place too. And so some places are even doing that now. Any questions, comments? Thank you for the thumbs up, Merle. It's good to see everybody. I just hope y'all get out and shoot some. Thank you, Shad. Chef, what do we got next week? I don't have that with me, or I don't think I have. Maybe I do have that with me.
I've got it. We've got, if y'all can hear me, it's the successful lambing taught by Hunter Romero. I think is his name.
Yes.
And then Kyle Hill on Thursday is going to be speaking about waterfowl.
Those should be 2 good ones, and that sort of thing. So look forward to seeing everybody next week. Everybody have a wonderful Friday and a great weekend. Hey, the colors are beautiful right now. Looking about having some rain tomorrow. So get out there and get some of those fall photos taken.
Hey, Shad.
Yeah.
Sharon's got something to say.
Too bad y'all ain't working tomorrow. I was making fried apple pies tonight.
No! Merle, how could you do that to me?
Hey, Sharon, I know where you live. I'll be up there.
He bragged on your pies today, and he said that you made 10, and he ate 7 out of the 10.
Yeah.
And I told him how much I liked them, and now he's going to rub it in. He's a working machine. Take good care of him.
That's right.
Good to see everybody. Everybody have a good one.
See you all.